I guess it's been 15 months now.
15 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
What the hell happened there? I don't know.
Somebody maybe with a knife was carving the side of your desk while you didn't know it.
That's what I get for talking too much.
Yeah, you were talking, you weren't watching their hands.
Right.
Well, I'm Randy Rhodes with Ole Miss Legal Studies Department. I'm interviewing today Mr. Sam Montgomery, and we'll let him tell you who he is.
My name is Sam Montgomery. I am a criminal defense attorney here in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. I'm 30 years old. I've been doing it for about 15 months now. And let's see, I went to school at Mizzou and UMKC.
And what led you to become a lawyer, Sam?
Well, I grew up around it. My father was an attorney, still is. I work with him here. I saw what he did on a day-to-day basis. He told me about it. I think he was fairly honest with me about the job. And as I got older, he didn't necessarily pressure me to do it, but I tried to learn more about it at school when I was an undergrad. It seemed interesting, stimulating, and I thought law school would be interesting. So here I am.
What did you work any other jobs in between, or?
Not since I graduated law school. No.
Okay.
No, this is my first legal job and really my first adult job, I would say.
Private practice.
There you go, private practice.
Okay. What's your typical day look like?
Typical day would be quite a few days we do have to go to court. Most of those days you're just in court waiting for your clients to be called. You approach the bench, you tell the judge what you're there for that day. Sometimes it'll be for a plea, sometimes it'll just be for a continuance to get a later court date, and sometimes every now and then you'll have a motion to be taken up. Maybe you'll have a hearing on a certain issue. Just depends. And if I'm not in court, I'm here usually interviewing clients, working on cases, doing a little research here and there. That's about the extent of it. That's a typical day.
When a client calls you with a criminal charge issue, so they call you up with that, what's your usual steps with the client? What's your checklist?
The first thing we want to do for sure is get them into the office so we can sit down with them, talk to them, find out more about what happened, their history, the situation in particular. After we talk to them, and if they decide that they want to hire us, we will get going on it right away, which means we file an entry in whatever court that case is going on in. After that, we'll usually wait to get the discovery, or we'll go to the first court appearance. Once we get discovery from the state or the city, we'll sit down with the client, review that together, and that's when we'll really come to a determination as to how we want to proceed.
And what are the what's some examples of how you proceed at that point?
Well, sometimes after you've met with the client and talked to the prosecutor, you'll come to an agreement as to a plea, or maybe an amended charge. And if you do come to an agreement, then you'll take care of that in court the next time you're due there. If you don't have an agreement, you may have to set it for trial and wait and see as trial gets closer whether or not you still want to go ahead with the trial. If you can't come to an agreement, or if the client is insisting that they are innocent, you'll go ahead and try the case and see how it turns out.
What are some of the stumbling blocks in that just process that you made it sound like it just rolls like a breeze system? So, you mentioned filing, you mentioned discovery, meetings with your clients, all that just go like clockwork?
No, not all the time. A lot of clients, it can be difficult to track them down. Sometimes we lose phone numbers or they get new phone numbers. Sometimes we just don't hear from them for a while. Sometimes we'll have to wait on labs for discovery, and that will take a while, and so that'll prolong the matter. And sometimes you just want to prolong it so you can come to a better understanding with the prosecutor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What are some of the mistakes that your defense clients make that kind of hinder your steps? When they come to you, you think, "Oh, I hope they didn't do this," and they already have committed that. What are they?
if you want to do something such as disqualifying a certain judge in a case, if they have been arraigned in front of the judge that you want to disqualify, and it's been a matter of days after that arraignment, you cannot disqualify that judge any longer, and that may make your task a little more difficult. Also, if there are if a client has been or has gotten out on bond and conditions have been placed on them, they violate that bond, that makes it more difficult. They could be placed back in jail, or you have to try and get a meeting with the judge as quickly as possible to try and get some leniency for that violation.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's a big one, is violating conditions or getting a new charge in the meantime. Yeah, that can certainly affect things.
What are some of the good things that the clients have done when they come in? What's your perfect client look like?
Let's see. Perfect client doesn't have any criminal history. Okay. That always helps. Someone who is always responsive, someone who is easy to talk to, someone who has a clear mind, and someone who is willing to tell you what happened. Oftentimes clients say they don't remember the incident very well. That can make things difficult. But I'd just say a client who's always willing to work with you, quick to answer phone calls, quick to get back to you, and a client who is not going to have trouble coming up with money for fines and possible restitution in certain cases.
Because there are a lot of steps.
There are many steps. Sure. Yeah. Sure. And if I'm glossing over things that I shouldn't be, please tell me. I'm sorry.
No, one thing I don't want you to gloss over, and remember this is for the university and it's used for that purpose in the class.
Sure.
This doesn't have to be just with Cape Girardeau, but do you see any biases in the system? Is from your role, do you see biases that might occur in any of those steps? You've mentioned the police, the court, people being in jail, all through the criminal justice system. What biases have you seen?
Well, I guess the first one that comes to mind that anybody would think of would be race, but I have to be honest, I haven't really seen much of that personally. I know there are instances in the news, of course, but I haven't seen much of that personally here in my short time. I would say as soon as you have a criminal record, there's a bias that you're just not believable, which I find to be a little silly. Of course, some people have really long records. That definitely doesn't work in your favor. But yeah, even if you just have one or two, the prosecutor will be much less likely to believe you. I think that's kind of wrong. Also, I'd say poor and uneducated people, I may even be guilty of it myself. I guess a lot of people just have a lower opinion of the extremely poor, the extremely ignorant, and I think that's something we all have to try and daily remember to look past.
Well, I watch our court process with the juvenile court and how fast it goes. Even just how fast people speak in court.
Sure.
Running through the who's there and whether they have the waiver of legal counsel signed, whether they stipulate to this piece, this, and the clients are just looking back and forth like, what the heck is going on?
Right.
So do you see that too? Sometimes your clients come out and say, what was that?
I do, and I always try to make sure that I explain things to them well enough before and after, because as the lawyer or the judge or even just a court clerk, it's all routine to you, and you've heard it all a million times. But to them, there are a lot of terms being thrown around, and just the whole situation is foreign, and you don't want them to go into something, certainly, not knowing what's ahead. Yep. But you do have to remind yourself that this is their first time in court, where it's your 100th or 1000th. Right.
Mm-hmm. We kind of laughed already about this last question. Are you in this game for the long haul?
I am. Yeah, I'd like to continue. I'd like to